Hello everyone, my name is Israel Michael. I'm a database administrator and trainer. Today, I'm going to be discussing about and then kind of demoing the on how to automate SQL Server agent job synchronization between among availability group replicas using the dbatools PowerShell module in SQL Server. Now, you know, why do we need to synchronize these SQL Server agent jobs in an always availability group environment? The reason why is, as we know, jobs are server level objects. They're not part of the availability group databases. So we cannot, synchronize these SQL Server agent jobs. And the other is because of that, then, you know, jobs you may have on the primary may not be replicated to the secondary replicas that will create missed alerts, duplicate executions, and out of sync schedules. So these are, some of the drawbacks. And DBAs, if they try to manually synchronize or create the job on the primary and also on the secondary, sometimes they're error prone, and also, there's also time involved in this kind of processes. So why should we use the dbatools PowerShell module for synchronization? One is an open source PowerShell module that you can find in the internet. I will show you later where you can find it. And it gives you consistency because there is no manual or DBA intervention required once it's automated. So it gives you consistency across replicas and prevent execution issues or missed errors, the one that we just mentioned earlier. And it gives you it's efficiency, right? It's efficient because that process is once implemented is automated and it's less error prone. It's scalable in the sense that you can use it to handle a large environment with multiple availability groups or availability replica instances. And so for this one, we use the Copy-DbaAgentJob commandlet for the job synchronization. But the way I'm going to show you is you will use this one, and then we'll try to dynamically synchronize the jobs across environments. And such is reliable and it has an ease of use, and that reduces the manual effort by DBAs. So what are the prerequisites, right? So the basic prerequisite for the is installing the dbatools PowerShell module on a server that you'll be running the synchronization process. It could be, you could install it on each and every SQL Server instance, availability group replica instance, and you can have even this SQL Server agent job running the synchronization for you, or you can have a utility server where you can run this process from. So one thing is you need to download the dbatools PowerShell module, and so you can find the dbatools.io/download. So once you so there are the online and offline option of it. I can just go ahead and show you on the internet how you find this one. So this is where you download. So and there are guides on how you can install this PowerShell module. They say that you have the online and offline module, and this is where the documentation about the Copy-DbaAgentJob is discussed. So you go ahead and when you have time review this one, but I'll just go back and finalize my presentation. It's just very short PowerPoint. So once you have that in place, the other one sometimes like when you try to install PowerShell modules with dbatools or SQL Server PowerShell modules or any other, you may need to maybe required to enable the TLS 1.2 version of it. So that will help you kind of, download the modules. So in this case, the one I'm going to show you requires also the SQL Server PowerShell module that you'll be using the invoke SQL CMD command. And that the last one is permissions. So you need to make sure that you or the person who will be installing these modules and running the PowerShell script that I'm going to show you has sufficient privileges on both the primary and the secondary replicas to run the PowerShell, as well as installing the PowerShell modules. So the script that I'm going to show you only requires to provide the list of availability group listeners, and it will dynamically identify the primary and the secondary replica instance. And as such, it will replicate the jobs from primary instance to the secondaries. And depending on how you would want to synchronize the jobs, let's say if you use the force option, it will drop and create all the jobs um, from the primary and then copy over into the secondary with a drop and create, right? But if you don't use the force option, it will check if the job exists, it will skip it and only creates new jobs. Now, what's the downside of this one? Not using a force is sometimes if you are consistent or constantly creating or modifying the jobs, then say job schedules and etc., then that will, that's going to be out of sync. So sometimes for a certain group of jobs, you may want to use the force option to be able to drop in, create those jobs in the secondary. And there are a number of options in the in the documentation section for this Copy-DbaAgentJob commandlet, or on how to use. So without further ado, I'm gonna go to the demo and show you how to do it. So um, I have an always on availability group set up in my lab with 3 nodes. So you have a lab SQL 10, lab SQL 13, and lab SQL 16. Um, these are aliases. I chose initially a not good name called Prod SQL 10 and 11 and 16. So just please disregard this prod thing. It's just an incorrect way of naming my lab SQL server and instance. So let's call it lab, lab SQL 10 and 13 and 16. So this is 3 node SQL Server 2022 Developer Edition SQL Server in an always on availability group architecture. So I have 2 availability groups, AG 1 and AG 2. So as you can see, LS 1 and LS 2 are the listeners. This is a single subnet cluster that I have, and the database are not, have a few databases that are here in an availability group. So since our focus is on the SQL Server agent, now I just created these two, a test job 1 and a test job 2, just to make sure that they just come up to at the top of the job list because of this alphabetical order. Now, so if you look at the job SQL 13, lab SQL 13, you don't see these 2 jobs. These jobs are only created on lab SQL 10 instance, and you don't see it also on lab SQL 16, right? Okay, so that's good. Now let's go and look at our PowerShell script. Now, okay, so before going to the PowerShell script and then going through and discussing, since I say that one of the 2 prerequisites are installing the dbatools PowerShell module and the SQL Server PowerShell module. I have already installed these 2 PowerShell modules, but I have this PowerShell script that will check for me if the dbatools PowerShell module, all the SQL Server PowerShell modules have been installed. And if they are not, it will install it, right? So I'm going to just run this one. And then, so as you can see, it says the dbatools PowerShell module has been installed. And, just got the top 10, I believe, the PowerShell commands of the dbatools PowerShell module, which is awesome. So now I just confirmed that the dbatools PowerShell module has been installed. Now I'll do the same for the SQL Server PowerShell module. And then you can see that the SQL Server PowerShell module has also been installed, right? So these are 2 very important, very validation checks before doing the actual process for the synchronization. Now, these scripts that I'm showing you, I have already made it available on my GitHub repo. So if you go to github.com/israelhelamichael, and then you'll see the SQL Job Sync dash always on AG. I have the scripts available here, right? So you can, I'll also put it on the under the video on the note section. So let's go back here now. So what you need is the list of listeners as an array. So now I have a listen one and a listen two, right? So if you, so as I said, like you can run this script from one server, but then as long as you give the listeners, it can work for as many availability groups. And the first thing that it does is it uses the invoke SQL assembly command and runs this SQL script query. What it does, it finds the replica name and of that availability group, and then which one is the primary, right? There's only one node that's primary at any given time. So then based on that, it identifies which one of that node is a primary replica, right? And because so that you have what you need, right? So you have for each listener, and then what we do is you get the listener, you pass on the listener, you get the list of instances, identify which one is the primary in the list of secondaries, right? So, and then we have this some validation checks here. And then the other step here is to get the list of jobs from the primary replica. Not here. Now, I mean, once you get the list of job names from the primary replica, if you want to exclude certain jobs, you still have the option, right, to customize this PowerShell script and filter out certain jobs that you don't want to replicate. Maybe they are just only on SQL 1. Um, the command line also has the option to exclude certain jobs. So you can choose wherever you want to do that exclusion. Then you do for an O for each, right? So then you have for each secondary replica, because then you have a set of secondary replica, one or more secondary replicas in an availability group, right? And then you have a for each job in the agent job list. Then you do is a copy job agent, then you have the source, and then you have the destination, and then the job name, right? So now this gives me, as I said, the option if I want to use a force or a not force. Yeah. So if I exclude the force, then what's going to do, it will check if the job exists on a secondary, and if it does, it will skip out, right? Now, and then because I have a try catch here, what it does is, if there's something, then it will throw an error. So because since I'm an administrator on this server and also on the SQL Server instance, I will not have any problem. But you'll have to always make sure that you also have the necessary permissions to be able to run this PowerShell script, and as well as query the primary replica instances, and also be able to drop and create SQL Server agent jobs. Now I'm going to run this one, and remember I showed you that I already have this job test 1 and test 2 on the primary replica instance, and we will see if these jobs will be created on the secondary. I'm going to just run this one as a test, right? And then we'll see if it creates those jobs on the secondary replica. So they said I have 2 secondary replicas, and this is from the PowerShell, right? So while this is running, I will show you. I already have this PowerShell script as part, like I created a SQL Server Agent Job, which I called it admin dash SQL Job Sync always on AG. Now what it does, it just runs this PowerShell script. I don't have a schedule yet. I don't have a set a schedule, but you decide how often you want to, run this synchronization process. I would say nightly. You could do, or you can do once a week. But in my case, and I would recommend to do a nightly process for this to run. Now the step is very easy, right? So since you have an always on availability group, there are several ways of making sure that these jobs run, on a primary or whatever, right? So you can either use another job, an orchestrator, or a failover conductor, where if the job always needs to run on the primary but disabled on the secondary, you can have that logic set so that the job always makes sure that only jobs on the primary are enabled and jobs on the secondary are disabled. Now you can use using a failover conductor. Whenever the availability groups fail, it just detects that one and then makes that enable on the primary and disable on the secondary. Or what you can have is just have a first job step that will go and check, okay, I have an availability group that's primary now, then I'm gonna not stop or disable this, not stop this job. But if this job runs and checks, and if the availability group, right, AG role is secondary, then you can go ahead and stop the job, right, from running. So whichever way you choose, and there are a number of ways of orchestrating this job running on the primary and then disabling or stopping on the secondary. Now, the main thing is the run sync jobs process, right? Job step. It's a simple process. So you put your PowerShell script, right? The one that I'm just running now, wherever you want. So for me, is on this C scripts folder, and then I use the cmd exec type. You can use the SQL Server Agent account. Make sure that SQL Server Agent has access to the secondary replicas. If it doesn't, you may also use other accounts. It could be a proxy account. Then, like, right, on success, quit the job, or on failure, quit the job, and also have an output, folder, an output file for the output, right? So this is if you want to schedule it. So you have a schedule. So this is the process to do it. So now, as you can see here, skip, 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 because they already exist. Now you can see that it says the jobs are already created, right? 2 times. So we'll just go and refresh here, refresh, right? And then you do refresh. So as you can see, the jobs are created. Now I will do F7 again, highlight, and then delete, right? I deleted from Lab SQL 16, and I'm going to run this job again, right? So first we did using the PowerShell module, maybe it's the script, sorry, but now we'll do using the job. And our goal is to make sure that the jobs are created on Lab SQL 16 instance. If that's done, then which means that our testing is successful. Now, as I said, so I have this. This is the output file, and then just see if it's writing. So this PowerShell, the dbatools PowerShell module has a number of validation checks before it does the actual copy process. Still going through. I'm going to close this one and see how long it took last time to do the synchronization process. I think it took almost a minute, 56 seconds. So we'll see if it does complete within that window. All right, so you can see that's last equals 16. The jobs are already created. So which proves that the PowerShell script, works as expected. As I said, I'll go back and repeat one more thing. You only need to provide the listener names and make sure that you have all the required permissions, or you or the account that will be running, because it's going to be automated, right? The job has the necessary permissions to be able to execute the PowerShell script, as well as be able to connect to the primary and secondary replicas and create a job, or create SQL Server agent jobs. Thank you for watching.